Good evening and welcome to the National Sim Racing Pocono 500 here at the Pocono Speedway for the first round of the National Sim Racing Chase for the Cup. Practice has just ended here and we are looking at qualifying. Tony Kurgel, last week's winner in the number 13 car, out on track, starting to get his qualifying run underway here in that number 13 Royal Purple Ford Taurus. Pretty nicely sized field for today's event. Looks like we got about 18, 19 cars around the very aptly named Tricky Triangle of Pocono. But as stated, Tony Kurgel's getting up to speed here in the 13 car, getting ready for his first lap around here in qualifying trim. And he was the fastest in practice. And normally when that 13 car is the fastest in practice, he is one of the fastest in qualifying as well. Flying into turn one, keeping it pretty low, but not all the way to that yellow line. Gets right near the wall and coming through the very tough tunnel turn number 2 here at Pocono. Really throws it into the corner here. Very well composed through the tunnel turn. Oh, but he gets a little loose and scrapes the wall. That's going to invalidate his first lap here. So Tony Kurgel going to have to get the biggest run that he can for his second lap, because this would be the only lap that will count for him, because he scraped the wall. Once again, very stable through 1 and 2, about half a lane off the yellow line. It separates the racing surface from the apron here at Pocono. And then into turn 2. Let's see if he can keep it a little bit better. A little bit of counter steer on entry, but the car does not get as loose. Very well kept out of the tunnel turn and into turn 3, where a lot of time is gained or lost. Really hard on entry, a seam above the yellow line, sliding on exit. That's going to cost him some time down the long front straightaway, but coming across the start finish line, he will set a 52.760, good enough for pole for the car at number 13, Tony Kurgel. Looking at Nicholas Pressey in the 94, it looks like he's having a little bit of internet issues. That car seems really loose out of the corner. Coming into the tunnel turn for Nicholas Pressey. Very well kept. Whoa, just barely kept it off the wall. He was approaching that wall very quickly. Now coming into turn 3, lots of speed being carried into turn 3 and keeping it right on that yellow line as if he was painting it out to the wall of turn 3 and coming across the stripe. This is a good lap shaping up for Nicholas Pressey. See, and that's pole for number 94, 52.558 for Nicholas Pressey. So provisional pole for him right now. Mark Sikochi just pulled out on track. I doubt that he'll be able to get a lap done, considering that laps are about 52 seconds and we only got about 40 seconds left of qualifying. Dawson Kent in pit lane. And Ray Partridge slowing down the Long Pond straight here. $15 seconds left in qualifying for the Pocono 500. And it looks to me like Nicholas Pressey will retain his pole, as no one else is doing any laps. So moving on to the warm-up section of the event. So we got 5 minutes of warm-ups for drivers to get their race setups and any final adjustments they may need to make to adjust for track conditions underway. But while these cars are getting warmed up and their race trims being getting the final touches put on them, big shout out to our series sponsor IRD Racing out of Florida for any fuel injection need for real life racing purposes. IRD, the king of carburetors, and they do everything from circle track racing to drag racing to even road racing. IRD Racing, one of the leaders in the industry of fuel injection, and they have been very helpful for allowing us to broadcast here on Fireball Talks NASCAR. So IRD Racing, the king of carburetors. If you want to take your real world racing program to the next level, especially in the terms of fuel injection, don't be afraid to contact the king of carburetors at irdracing.com. Just going through the field, you see the 26 of Robert Wiggins and Adam DeFore in the 5 going side by side into turn 2, keeping it very well kept out of the tunnel turn. And then Adam DeFore going to do a very typical Pocono maneuver, just levering his way ahead of Wiggins into turn 3. Wiggins scrapes the wall a little bit on exit. But Tony Kurgel, currently the fastest in warm-ups right now with a 53.553. About 1 second slower than the qualifying trim of Nicholas Pressey. That just shows how hard they're pushing these cars with their qualifying setups to get the pole here. But Pocono tends to be a very clean racetrack in terms of the cautions that it produces. It typically does not produce a lot of cautions, but it does produce very good racing. So we should be pretty set for a very good race here, as we have, I believe, 100 laps around this 2.5 mile triangle. And 100 laps might not seem like a lot, but here at Pocono, when the lap times are 53, 54 seconds, that is quite the amount of time. Andrew Rodriguez peeking to the inside of Dylan Lansdale into the tunnel turn. A little bit of a late move, but good thing that it's warm-up so that there's no consequence to trying that, and if it goes all sideways. Now John Bittler looking to the outside of Rodriguez into 3. Just trying to get any kinks worked out of these setups here, so that they don't arise and bite you in the butt during the race. Looks like, I believe we have 16 people here for tonight's event. If I counted, I think I might have counted wrong. I think it's actually 19 people.
88 total.
So give me 1 second to just adjust some settings, and we will be with your starting lineup in just 1 second. Okay. Starting on pole is the number 94 of Nicholas Pressey. We saw him set his pole lap here. And on his outside for the Pocono 500 is car number 13, Tony Kurgel, last week's winner at Auto Club. Starting in third on the inside of row number 2 is number 5 of Adam DeFore. On his outside is number 15 of Brian Wiggins. Inside of row number 3 is the 1 car of Ray Partridge. And on his outside is the number 16 of Philip Chavez. Inside of row number 4 is the number 20 of Chris Chavez Essery. And on his outside is the number 77 of Nick Gould. Inside of row number 5 is number 26 of Robert Wiggins. And rounding out your top 10 is going to be the number 18 of Angel Rodriguez. Inside of row number 6 is going to be the 27 of Dawson Kent. On his outside is going to be the 45 of Colton English. Dylan Lansdell starting on the inside of row number 7 in that 24 car. And on his outside is series sponsor number 88, John Bittler. Inside of row number 8 is going to be James Young, then followed by Jason Crumley. And rounding out the last row in today's field of 18 drivers is going to be the 8 of Mark Sikochi, starting pretty far back. He's going to have to work his way through the field. And then rounding out your field, the number 56 of Chris Norris. So 100 laps here at Pocono Speedway. By my application's calculations, we've got about an hour and a half of racing here. So if this goes flag to flag, this will be just under 90 minutes. But looks like Nicholas Pressey is having a little bit of connection issues as he's blinking in and out a lot here. As he's been, yeah, it's hard to keep track of the number 94 when the internet keeps blinking in and out. But pace car going to pull into pit lane. It's going to be the blinking number 94 of Nicholas Pressey leading the field to the green flag here at Pocono. Green flag is out for 100 laps. The Pocono 500 for National Sim Racing is underway, and everyone seems to have had a pretty cordial start. No one trying any crazy moves just yet. Pressey going to be able to clear Kurgel entering turn 1, but Kurgel going to try to fight back to the inside. And now Kurgel on the 94's quarter panel. And the caution's already out. We have a car around in the back. That's the 77 of Gould, I believe, around. And then that's James Young with heavy damage. And yeah, that right front on Young is already collapsed. So already race-ending damage for that 69 car. Let's get a replay on what happened. This was in the back of the field. Okay, looking at the number 77 of Nick Gould. Doesn't have anyone around him, and it looks like he just gassed it up too much on those cold tires. Car got really sideways. He's trying to save it. Car has snap oversteer. And then he locks it up. Whoa, Dawson Kent just barely avoids. Lansdell barely avoids. But, oh, James Young not so lucky. And that just destroyed the right front suspension of that 69 car. And I think Nick Gould actually got really lucky that all of that contact was with the quarter panel and nothing with the actual suspension components themselves. Because, yeah, that the right front on that 69 car is completely gone. So not much really changed in the running order besides Ray Partridge falling back a couple of spots on that initial start. But your top 5 right now on lap number 2: Nicholas Pressey, Tony Kirchhoff, Adam DeFore, Chris Chavez, Essery, and Brian W. Wiggins. And I doubt that we see anyone try to go down pit lane if they didn't get damage in that accident. As, yes, James Young has pulled that car behind the wall. Very unfortunate race for that 69 car. So we got one more. We actually got 2 more trips around the sun here. As you see, just at the edge, the top of the shot, you see Nick Gould filing into pit lane. But these pace laps sure do take quite a long time here at Pocono. Last time by, these drivers took about 1 minute and 53 seconds to get around this track at pace speed, which is 75 miles per hour. But I believe next time by, the pace car lights will be off, so we will have our first restart of the race on lap 4, coming to lap 5. Now, if I were some of these drivers, maybe fuel saving would be something I'd be investigating in, because maybe if the maybe you can make it to 48 laps before you have to pit, but if you save a little bit, you might be able to preserve that extra lap or two with how long these straights are. But pace car lights are off, so we will be going green next time by, and hopefully there won't be a big wreck to cause another caution where pace laps will be 2 minutes long. But it's going to be Nicholas Pressey leading the way. Once again, under caution to lead us to the first restart of tonight's event. We just gotta feel awful for James Young, who pretty much did 2 corners, did all of the setup work for this race, and it all went up in smoke because the car in front of him just could not hold it together on cold tires. So pace car, once they get out of turn number 3, make the hard left turn into pit lane, and we should be going back to green flag racing here. On lap number 4, it's going to be Nicholas Pressey blinking once again, running all the way near the wall, making sure no one can pass him on the outside. Pace car is in and waiting for Nicholas Pressey to hit the loud pedal. Green flag is out. Good start for Pressey, and Kurgel getting a little bit of a jump over DeFore and the rest of the field. Very packed together, but not making a move just yet. You can see Angel Rodriguez all the way in the back making a move on Dylan Lansdell into one. Lansdell's going to have to run through the center of the corner, and here comes Mark Sikochi on his rear end trying to peek to his outside. Now swaps back to the inside, going to get alongside Angel Rodriguez coming into the tunnel turn here. And this is a very tough corner to go side by side in, and they keep it very well composed. Angel Rodriguez even falls back a little bit since he went so high. John Bittler now too is inside, looking to make a move in turn 3. He's going to get that move made. So move John Bittler into the 12th position as, we saw Robert Wiggins get really close to that outside wall right in front of Dawson Kent. But it looks like he was able to keep it out of the wall that time as Colton English moving to the inside of Jason Crumley for the 14th spot, but he's not able to get the power down, and Crumley's going to be able to power by on the outside. Chavez hounding the back end of Brian W. Wiggins as they fly into the tunnel turn here. But I tell you what, the top 4 all under a blanket as, DeFore scrapes the wall. This opens the door for Chavez Essery to sneak around his inside. So Chris Chavez Essery getting into the 3rd position after Adam DeFore scrapes the wall a little bit, but DeFore with a big run on the inside in the 3rd turn, not going to be able to pull to the inside of the 20 car yet. So Chris Chavez Essery going to be able to have a little bit of a breather as they go down that very long front straightaway, and now he's going to try to be working on Tony Kurgel, who at the same time is trying to find a way around Nicholas Pressey. But everyone right now very single file here as Kurgel might make a move into the tunnel turn. Thought better of it, backs out. Wise move, but that might open the door for Chavez Essery to peek to his inside. He got a great exit out of the tunnel turn. Does he look to the inside of the 13 here? Looks like he doesn't. Chavez Essery running a higher line than that 13 car, and not going to be able to get the run that he was looking for out of 3. So Kurgel holds his position. Here comes Adam DeFore with a big head of steam, looking to make a pass on the 20 car. Nothing materializing for him just yet, but maybe he'll be able to get the drive out of the corner to the inside of Chavez Essery. Nope, not going to be able to make it happen here. So Adam DeFore still going to have to be content with 4th place for the time being, but we still got a lot of racing left. Current fastest lap of the race goes to the 15 of Brian W. Wiggins back in 5th with a 53.576. About half a tenth faster than the 2nd fastest lap held by Chris Chavez Essery. So we probably won't see any more purple laps being posted until a new set of tires gets put on these cars. Which now that the cars are starting to single out, might not be until green flag pit stops. You saw at the very edge of that shot, we saw Ray Partridge getting really close to the outside wall. That one car really ringing it around turn 3 and running a higher line than most people. But you can run multiple lines at Pocono to varying degrees of success. Most people just try to pin it to the bottom, but you can most definitely try to make a move on the outside, as we saw Adam DeFore get really close to Chavez Essery once again. But it seems like that outside wall of turn 2 is really biting him out of the tunnel turn. But Nicholas Pressey currently has about a half a second gap over Tony Kurgel and is trying his best to build upon it. I think if Pressey can get outside of about 6/10 from Tony Kurgel, that will disallow Kurgel from getting any draft. But we have Philip Chavez peeking to the inside of Brian Wiggins down the Long Pond Straight into turn 2. Wiggins going to try to fight back on the outside. Chavez gets loose on exit, but he's going to be able to pull ahead of Wiggins. And now that has brought Ray Partridge into the fold for this battle, as now Partridge going to look to the inside of Wiggins. Wiggins scrapes the wall on exit, so that's going to allow Partridge to inch just ever closer alongside that 15 car. Now Partridge going to make the move into turn 1. He's going to take 6th place for himself, but he really went in deep, and now Wiggins going to try the crossover since Partridge went up so high in the corner. As in the back, they are really having a ball back here. Mark Sikochi leading the way, and keep in mind, Mark Sikochi started on the last row, is already back in 8th place. That car is bad fast. But now Dawson Kent battling with Nick Gould, Robert Wiggins, and John Bittler. This is for the 10th position, I would say this battle between 4 cars is for. As Gould looking to the inside of Kent out of 3. He had a great drive through the center, able to pull almost dead even and give the advantage to Dawson Kent. But now Nick Gould with a drive and the preferred line coming into turn 1 should be able to make the move stick here. But Dawson Kent with a big drive to the center of the corner and keeping it composed on exit, going to be able to stay side by side with that 77 car. And Robert Wiggins not really finding anywhere to go past these guys. Pocono is a very wide track. Whoa, Nick Gould really just slid right in front of Dawson Kent. That car is not handling very well. Dawson Kent had to get out of it big time, and that's going to allow both Wiggins and John Bittler through. But like I was saying, Pocono is such a wide track, but it is deceptively wide, because there's really only 1 to 2 lanes that can be viably ran. And trying to go 3 wide on anywhere that is not a straightaway is more often than not a recipe for disaster. But Nick Gould now looking to the outside of Robert Wiggins coming into turn 1. Going to try to use that loose car to get rotated up around the top, and he's going to get clear of the 26 out of 1. And now John Bittler looking to make a move on Wiggins. Will he try to do it into the tunnel turn? Going to look to the inside. He's there. Bittler now sliding out too. Wiggins, he had to get out of it a lot. And now Dawson Kent going to use that checkup from Bittler to get around him. So nice move by Kent to pick up a position. But back up near the front, Adam DeFore has caught back up to Chris Chavez Essery. And let's see, will he try to make a move on that 20 car going up high to get the drive out of turn 1? And no, it looks like he wasn't able to get it done. He might have had to get out of the gas a little bit as he was approaching the outside wall. I tell you what, I don't know if Pressey is trying to conserve his stuff a little bit, but that gap between him and Kurgel has definitely shrunk by a little bit. Last time I mentioned it, it was about 5/10, 6/10. But Tony Kurgel has remained in the draft of Nicholas Pressey and has closed that gap to about half of what it was, 0.3 of a second, separating first and second place as they fly down the front straightaway. Adam DeFore still all over the back end of Chris Chavez Essery and might even try to make a move at the exit of 1. He's to the inside of Essery as Essery had a little bit of a bobble in the center of the corner, and now move Adam DeFore into the 3rd spot as he's just gonna as Chris Chavez Essery is gonna let that 5 car by. maybe hope that the 4 is really burning up his stuff, but that's not helping if Chavez Essery scraping the wall on exit. But for the lead here, like a predator hunting its prey, Tony Kurgel has slowly and methodically caught up to that 94 of Nicholas Pressey, and definitely putting on the pressure. But with how much Kurgel is turning that wheel, he's got to be burning up more right front tire. But either way, he's to the inside of Pressey down the long pond straight, coming into the tunnel turn, side by side for the lead into the tunnel turn. Maybe a little bit of contact between the 13 and 94. Kurgel really had to get out of it, and Pressey's gonna be able to hold off the spot for the time being. But for how long, or how much longer can he do that? Because Tony Kurgel is very hungry to get the lead. As whoa, big sideways moment for Tony Kurgel. Great save for that 13 car, but he just lost most of the ground and some that he spent all that time gaining. And he's definitely gonna have to cool down the rear tires after a slide like that. But that 13 car is a very fast race car, so I have no doubts that he'll be catching the 94 sometime soon. I tell you what, first to seventh only separated by about 2.4 seconds. All of them within sight of each other. So not much room for error here, because let's say if Tony Kurgel has another slide like that, he's got Adam DeFore and Chris Chavez Essery knocking on his door if he makes another mistake like that. But Tony Kurgel going to be trying to cool off those right rear tires, as Brian Wiggins trying to slowly crawl his way back up through the field. Currently battling for 5th place with Philip Chavez in the 14 car. Wiggins might be able to get... Oh, I thought Wiggins was going to be able to get a drive out of the corner and pull to the inside of Chavez, but it looks like he had a little bit of a correction and had to back out of it just a little bit, killing his momentum. But Wiggins going to try to set up the move down the short chute. And to the inside goes Wiggins coming into turn 3. And now Wiggins side by side with Philip Chavez. Chavez with the better drive out of the corner. Maybe a little bit of side to side contact between the 15 and 14. But Wiggins might try to lunge into turn 1. He's already taken the inside line. Chavez running a lane off. Oh, Wiggins had to get out of it to avoid sliding into the 14. Here comes Ray Partridge, maybe trying to make an opportunistic move off of the 15's mistake. Not able to get anything done, electing to rather work with the 15 rather than try to pass him. But back for the lead. The gap has shrunk once again, as Tony Kurgel now within 0.3 of a second of Nicholas Pressey, coming down the front straight here into turn 1. This field of 17 running cars, all single file right now. No one trying to make a move on each other just yet, because you really have to set up the move in advance and get them on exit instead of trying to beat them on entry here. As Pressey ran a little bit high in the tunnel turn, that's going to allow Kurgel to close up about 1/10.5 just by running a lower line. And now Kurgel looking to the inside of Pressey, but not there just yet. But you can see the pressure that Tony Kurgel is putting on Nicholas Pressey. Pressey trying to break the draft down the very wide front straightaway, blocks Kurgel straight up to the wall, little bit of wall contact for that 94 car. And now Kurgel looking to the inside of Pressey as they go into turn 1. Kurgel's going to be on the inside of Pressey on exit. Yep, he's there. So he can try. Oh, I thought that he was going to try to keep pulling alongside, but it looks like Pressey got a slightly better drive down the straightaway than Kurgel did. So Kurgel is still having to hold station in second place right now. We can see just how much time Kurgel gains on Pressey in turns 2 and 3. All he really needs to do is just get around him, and I think that he might be able to be making some moves. As does he try it into turn 1? He'll try it right here, side by side with the 94. The 13 sliding out, almost contact with the 94, but Pressey's gonna have a great drive out of the corner once again since he's running higher up. And Kurgel's very good at running that bottom line, and Pressey's blinking all over the place. Kurgel to the inside, out of the tunnel turn into turn 3. Kurgel's been very good in turn 3, and he might be able to get the move made if Pressey doesn't try to hang it on the outside. He's still there, so side by side down the front straightaway, they're about dead even as they cross the line, but Pressey was just barely ahead. Kurgel going to try to pull Pressey back to him just a little bit. And now Kurgel all the way on the inside. Pressey about 2 lanes up. Pressey's going to have a great drive out of the corner, but Kurgel might be able to keep him side by side coming into the tunnel turn. No, Pressey's still getting the drive out, but running that high up, that's got to be very punishing on the tires of that 94 car. So I think Kurgel is really trying to put that 94 in a very unfavorable situation. But Pressey has done a very good job of holding off that 13. The field very calm right now as we're just about to approach the quarter race mark. As Kurgel with a great drive on exit. Both cars getting very loose as they approach each other's air. And now Kurgel following tight in the draft of Pressey. Both going into the tunnel turn. And it looks like Kurgel's not going to be making a move this lap. Might be trying to set something up for the exit of turn 3 going into turn 1. The thing is that I think Kurgel can get the pass made if he can stay side by side down the Long Pond straight out of turn 1. But it seems like Pressey has a very good car for the exit of turn 1. That just sets him up to be able to defend as well as he's been able to. Another question is, how hard has Tony Kurgel been pushing the tires on that 13? There's no doubt that both cars have been pushing quite a lot. But when they're racing each other this hard, you're definitely putting more wear on the tires. As another great drive for Kurgel out of the tunnel turn, just ate up that gap to Pressey. He's going to look to the inside. Pressey's going to shut the door in his face. So Kurgel just within 0.2 of a second of Nicholas Pressey. Trying to stick with them as much as possible. As in the back, Ray Partridge all over the back end of Philip Chavez as Partridge scrapes the wall, entering one just a little bit. And he's going to go to the outside of Chavez in one. Is he able to make it stick? Looks like he'll be able to pull alongside that number 14 going into the tunnel turn. And yeah, Chavez is going to let going to let Partridge have it, as Kurgel looking to the inside of Pressey into 3, but Pressey sent it in deeper and was able to cut down right in front of the 13. Makes you wonder if Tony Kurgel wants to use that front bumper to unsettle that 94 just a little bit, like Jeremy Mayfield did to Dale Earnhardt, but he might reserve that for the last lap of the race if they're still in this situation. But to the inside goes Kurgel once again in turns 1 and 2. He's a lot better positioned this time. Might be able to work him over, work Pressey over, but not yet. Pressey just gets such a great drive down the long pond straight and is able to clear that 13 car. So going into turn 3, Kurgel going to get to the inside of Pressey here. Still side by side going down the front straight. If Kurgel can clear Pressey in turn 1, he might have it made. He's going to try to really send it in there. Pressey with a big drive on top. But Pressey with that run on the outside, and Kurgel going to have to slot in behind that 94. Once again, you got to think that Kurgel's got to be kind of sick of this song and dance of just trying to send it to the inside of Pressey. And just for Pressey to get the better drive out of turn 1. Big run for the 13 of Kurgel out of turn 3. Dead even down the front straightaway. As I believe Pressey was getting really loose out of 3. Kurgel all the way on the bottom. Pressey all the way up top. Kurgel might be able to clear him on exit here. He's going to get the move made, but will Pressey try the crossover now that he has the big run down the long pond straight? Blocks being thrown halfway down the track for Kurgel. Pressey's still there on the inside. Kurgel going to really send it into the tunnel turn. And Kurgel's going to get the move made for the lead in the tunnel turn. So new leader Tony Kurgel, after about 10 laps of just working on that number 94, finally reaps the rewards, as now Mark Sikochi, remember, started in the last row, now all the way up into the top 5 here, as we have multiple cars on pit lane on lap, oh, that's not it, on lap number 28 and 29. So cars that went to pit lane: Adam DeFord, Nicholas Pressey. Wait, what? Yeah, oh yeah, Adam DeFord, Nicholas Pressey on pit lane. Sorry about that. So let's see who wins this race off of pit road. I think it might actually be Pressey. As yeah, Pressey with the preferred spot, and oh, Kurgel had a big slide on exit, so that's gonna separate him by a few tenths over Kurgel. So yeah, 2 seconds separating Tony Kurgel and Nicholas Pressey. Kurgel did not have that great of a pit stop, but still staying out is Mark Sikochi and Ray Partridge. So Ray Partridge currently your leader, but he has yet to pit as he's battling with Dawson Kent. Dawson Kent trying to get himself unlapped here on lap number 31 out of 100. See, is anyone battling anyone? As Dylan Lansdell's in pit lane, just got out of pit lane. New fastest lap of the race for Chris Chavez Essery with a 43.465. So I was right when I said that we wouldn't see a new fastest lap until a new set of tires went on these cars. But it looks like this race would be split into 2 stops of about 30 laps each. But Ray Partridge and Mark Sikochi still, both of them staying out. Sikochi's running about a 1/10.5 faster than Partridge. So don't be surprised to see that number 8 car pull ahead of Partridge by the time they go into pit lane. But Partridge right now enjoying about a 2.5 second gap over Sikochi, as Partridge makes the executive decision to come into pit lane. Sikochi comes in as well. Philip Chavez decides to join the party. Same with Nick Gould. So maybe these guys are just running it until it's dry. Let's see what Jason Crumley does. He's going to stay out, so he's going to lead a lap here. So Jason Crumley moving himself into the lead. He's the second to last car to pit, or he's going to be the last car to pit now, with Colton English jumping in a pit lane. So Jason Crumley surely going to come in this time by, because even if he does come into pit lane, he should cross the start-finish line in time to in time to get that point for lap lead. But for the 4th position, Chris Chavez Esri working on the back of Brian Wiggins in that 15 car. Esri with a big run down the straightaway, looking to the inside of Wiggins. Into the tunnel turn, almost a little bit of contact made. Both drivers keeping it straight. Great piece of driving from that 15 car to not spin out and to keep that car completely stable. But that's gonna hurt their tire heat, and that's also gonna take him a little bit to recover from, as Adam DeFore is now has now brought himself into the mix. But Nicholas Pressey back in the lead of this race, with Tony Kurgel about 1 second behind him and closing just a little bit. And this is the battle for third between Wiggins, Chavez Esri, and Adam DeFore. Chavez Esri with another good drive out of turn 1 to the inside of that number 15. Should be able to get the move made into the tunnel turn here. But Wiggins fighting hard on the outside. Contact made between the 15 and 20 once again. Oh, DeFore thought about sticking his nose in, but Chavez Esri able to keep it straight, even though that car was dead sideways. So Chris Chavez Esri trying to get around Wiggins at any cost, and Wiggins fighting back with everything that he's worth. I think Chavez Esri definitely showing his displeasure with the 15. Might have pushed him up the track a little bit. But Chavez Esri, yeah, he's just riding the back end of Wiggins. Not happy with him at all, instead of trying to make a move into the tunnel turn. Should be able to make the move out of the tunnel turn, but he is just riding the back bumper of that 15. That's going to allow Adam DeFore to jump to the inside of the 20. But Chavez Esri going to have a great drive out of turn 3 to stay ahead of Adam DeFore, and will we see another friendly bump from that 20 car to the back of the 15. Like I said before, this is the battle for third place, and Chavez Esri with another good run out of 1. Still not electing to jump to the inside of Wiggins just yet. Maybe more so trying to make his presence known to that 15 car. But Chavez Esri doing that is allowing Adam DeFore to make moves on him and slow both of them down. Yeah, Adam DeFore now all over the back end of Chavez Esri as DeFore running higher up. But for the lead, it is once again heating up between Tony Kurgel and Nicholas Pressey. Kurgel looking to the inside of Pressey as they fly into the tunnel turn. Pressey going to let Kurgel by, but Kurgel very sideways. Maybe a crossover coming from Pressey. Not going to have the drive out of the corner to get it done. So Tony Kurgel back in the lead, getting around Nicholas Pressey once again. Keep in mind that he shrunk about a 2-second gap out of pit lane from that bad pit stop, and was able to make up that ground and some. But how much did that eat up his tires? As catching someone that quickly and with that big of a gap to make up in a short amount of time, surely at a track like Pocono, which chews up and spits out tires, is not going to be very beneficial. But Pressey with a big run down the long pond straight. Does he try to make a move into the tunnel turn? Looks like he's not going to try it just yet, as Brian W. Wiggins and Chris Chavez Esri still trading blows for third. As I don't think they're getting any closer to Pressey and Kurgel by doing this. And now Adam DeFore all on the back end of Chavez Esri. And this is going to allow Wiggins to pull up a little bit of a gap between these drivers. But Brian Wiggins, despite seemingly getting the ire of Chris Chavez Esri, has been keeping the car pretty stable. Hasn't been in any, hasn't really had too many mistakes thus far, and this pace is rewarding him currently. With third place, DeFore got really close to the wall with him sliding up towards that safer barrier. Just caught grip right before he hit it and was able to keep it out of the wall. Right now, Tony Kurgel starting to pull away from Nicholas Pressey. Gap now to 0.4 of a second between the 13 and 94. Adam DeFore still trying to build something on that number 20 car, but not able for anything to really happen. But Chavez Esri ran a little bit high. DeFore might have the drive down the straightaway to get to the inside. But now Chavez Esri all over the back end of Brian Wiggins once again. Surely sometimes he's got to make a move on that 15 car. But he's just not made it yet. Adam DeFore is getting a great drive out of the corner. Might be pulling alongside the 20, not yet, but he made up a lot of time just running as low as he could in that corner. But now Wiggins runs a little bit high. Here comes Chavez Esri as they both get around the 56 of Chris Norris. Now Chavez Esri and Wiggins side by side down the long pond straight. A familiar sight, these two cars side by side entering the tunnel turn. That's exactly what they're going to do. A little bit of contact on entry. And now Chavez Esri going to slide up wide into Wiggins. A little bit of contact. Almost gets into Wiggins again. I don't know if he accidentally slid into him again, but very familiar sights here. Adam DeFore's got to be annoyed of this. He's got to be tired and just says, I want to get past these two guys, but not able to make anything happen. And all of this tomfoolery between the 15 and the 20 has allowed Ray Partridge to steadily close the gap and invite himself into this group. Now he's got three to 5 lap fresher tires. than all of these guys. He's making up about one second a lap with how much these guys are battling, and the tire difference between these guys as well. So Ray Partridge might slice his way up into third if he can get around these guys with little issue. And Mark Sikochi also waiting in the wings if anything goes sideways between this very heated battle for third between Chris Chavez Essery and Brian Wiggins. Essery with a great run down the straightaway, still choosing to bump that 15 car. And you can see a little bit of damage to the quarter panel of Brian Wiggins, just how much contact the 20 and the 15 have been making. Now Adam DeFore looking to the inside of Chris Chavez Essery coming into the tunnel turn. Essery going to yield the position, going to try the crossover on DeFore. He had to get out of it. Whoa, DeFore all sorts of sideways through the tunnel turn. And that's exactly what Brian Wiggins wants to see. He wants to get as far away as possible from that 20 car. And now Ray Partridge all over the back end of Chris Chavez Essery. So lap 44 out of 100, nearing halfway here, as Essery trying to make up some ground to Adam DeFore running the inside. He's alongside the 5 car, and he has a better drive despite being on the bottom. Partridge would be wise to try and go with Essery through the tunnel turn and try to follow him through past DeFore. But Partridge is a much more patient person than I am, and DeFore gonna try to throw it up the inside of Chris Chavez Essery. I just got news that the Capitals are beating the Sabres 5-2. It's great to hear, but completely unrelated to the topic at hand, which is Ray Partridge going alongside Adam DeFore for the 5th position. Partridge gonna get clear of DeFore, but he's running so high up that DeFore gets to his inside briefly. But the drive that Partridge is gonna have out of the corner is gonna render that completely meaningless. And now Partridge has his sights set on that 20 and the 15 in front of him. And you can see just at the top of the shot, Mark Sikochi looking to join in on the fun too. The tire difference definitely making itself shown here, as Partridge going to try the outside of Essery. Not going to be able to make it stick, but he's going to try the crossover on exit. Not to the inside of Essery just yet. Seems like Partridge's best spot is on the exit of 1, using those tires to his advantage as he makes a crossover on Chris Chavez Essery, pulling that car to the inside. And now he's going to have the preferred line going into the tunnel turn. Essery going to let him by without too much issue. As well, big slide from Partridge, as that's going to cost him the spot to Essery. But Partridge going to try to fight back, still staying on the inside of Essery. Essery's probably like, I just let you go. And no, now you're really sideways. Partridge with a big save to the inside wall, just barely avoids the pit barrels. And that's Mark Sikochi going past him. So Partridge definitely going to have to cool down those rear tires after 2 consecutive big slides. But now it's more or less business as usual for Adam DeFore and Chris Chavez Essery. Both of them battling for the 4th position. Adam DeFore might try to make a move into the tunnel turn, but not in the right position just yet to make that move happen. As Chavez Essery in the wall a little bit. DeFore looking to the inside of Essery. DeFore might be able to lever his way around the 20 car into turn 3, and that's what he's going to do since Esri scraped the wall just a little tiny bit. Just the smallest of mistakes can allow the car in front, or the car behind, to become the car in front. And now Mark Sikochi kind of just has waltzed his way into this affair for third place, as Adam DeFore has really caught up with Brian Wiggins. And since he wasn't battling Wiggins as hard as Chavez Essery was, he might have a favorable tire wear. But poor exit out of the tunnel turn for DeFore. That's going to open the door for Chris Chavez Essery, but doesn't have the run required to pull up alongside that number 5 car. But the question is, when does Mark Sikochi strike? Because he's on 5 lap fresher tires than Chris Chavez Essery, and 3 lap fresher tires than Adam DeFore, and 8 lap fresher tires than Brian Wiggins. So theoretically speaking, if he didn't burn his stuff up, he should be able to piece these guys apart just on tire wear. But a bad entry to the tunnel turn for Adam DeFore. That's going to lose him some time to Wiggins. He seems to be very good entering the tunnel turn, but kind of gets caught up on exit by the field here. These guys 10 seconds behind Nicholas Pressey. That's just how fast Tony Kergel and Nicholas Pressey are. But lap 50 out of 100 next time by will be the halfway mark of this race. As Wiggins had a pretty terrible turn 1. DeFore looking to his inside. This is going to bring Chavez Essery into the fold. Thought about making it 3 wide. Thinks better of it. And he's going to try to follow DeFore through the tunnel turn around Wiggins. But Wiggins still holding strong on the outside, but he doesn't clear DeFore just yet. DeFore making his presence known. Wiggins going to drive it in really deep to pull the car down right in front of DeFore, and DeFore just drives through the back end of Wiggins. I'm not too sure what happened, but that also included Partridge, whose front end is blocking his windshield, and Chris Chavez Essery with a hefty amount of front end damage as well. So just as we crossed the halfway mark, the caution flag comes out. So let's get a replay going on what happened. So looking on board with Adam DeFore, and this is in super slow motion, you can see that he's really gaining on Wiggins through the center of the corner. And yeah, just straight into the back of Wiggins, sent him around. I think he meant to just bump him a little bit, but it just completely lifted the rear end of that car off the ground, and then Partridge just nowhere to go, collects himself with the 5, and Chris Chavez Essery had a face full of Brian Wiggins. Yeah, just nowhere for the 20 or the 1 to go. And you can see by the steering angle that that car is quite damaged with how much he's having to hold it to the right to keep it straight. So I'm very unsure of what happened with DeFore to bring that out. I think that he just meant to give the 15 a little bit of a tap to, you know, unsettle that car and move past him. And it just lifted up the rear end of the 15 without him expecting it. And unfortunately, collected two very fast cars in the form of Chris Chavez Essery and Ray Partridge. But Nicholas Pressey stays out this time by, as he actually had a perfect pit stop strategy, pitted on lap number 50, and the caution came out on lap 51. So those tires are pretty much up to temp, and they're pretty much up to temp, and they won't have to worry about cold tires. But Tony Kurgel wins the race off of pit road. And Mark Ciccocci in the third spot with 48 laps to go. With this pit window, they still have about 1.5 fuel runs to go, because remember that they had a green flag pit stop on lap number 30, I believe. So if this goes green to the end, they will still have about one a little over one more pit stop to make. But just catching up to the pace car. For what's only the second caution of the night thus far. But I believe that Ray Partridge is gonna try to keep this car in the race, even though there's no right front on that car. Chris Chavez Essery, tail end of the lead lap, still has that front end damage, but luckily the caution laps here at Pocono are so gosh darn long that you can get a lot of damage repaired in just one trip around this track. But pace car lights are out, and we will be going green this time by here, with 47 coming to 46 laps to go. But a familiar face right behind that 94 car with Tony Kurgel. It's been a thorn in the backside of Nicholas Pressey this entire race. Been hounding him to pass, and then when he has passed Pressey, Kurgel has pulled away like a thief in the night. So Tony Kurgel with a very fast race car, and so is Nicholas Pressey. I would not be surprised if these two drivers end up first and second, because during that last green flag run, the gap between second and third was 10 seconds. But pace car is in, and it's going to be Nicholas Pressey leading the field once again to the green flag after a very fortunate pit stop for him. Put him in front of the field. Green flag is out, and Pressey with a very good start. Kurgel not able to get as close to Pressey as he would have liked, but surely Kurgel will be able to catch Pressey in not that much time. John Bittler moving to the inside of Robert Wiggins to maintain 7th, but Wiggins is a lap down. Dawson Kent right behind John Bittler. Thought about making a move to his inside, but thought better of it. So everyone all singled out with the exception of Colton English, who is 9 laps down, looking to the inside of Jason Crumley. So this isn't really for position. This is just Colton English racing a lead lap car when he is 9 laps down. But it looks like for Mark Sikochi, short run speed not really in the cards for him, with Philip Chavez all over his back bumper, and Tony Kurgel got a really Tony Kurgel starting to pull away quite a bit from Sikochi. The gap between the 8 and the 13 already at a second. So that just shows the difference between the 94-13 and the rest of the field, as Philip Chavez hounding the back end of that 8 car. Big hit to the outside wall for Dylan Lansdell. That might have skewed the steering out a little bit with how hard he hit that wall. Nick Gould going to be able to slide on around him, but that was a hefty hit to the outside wall for that 24 car. It's definitely might impact the handling of that, especially might make it a little bit on the tighter side. But yeah, Mark Sikochi not faring too well on the short runs compared to Kurgel and Pressey. Philip Chavez all over his back bumper, and this allowed Nick Gould to close in as well. But maybe Sikochi is ultra conserving, thinking that this might go green to the end. So trying to save up his tires for the bigger picture here, as Philip Chavez is going to try to build up a run using that higher line, but not going to be able to get it done just yet. And now he's got Nick Gould right behind him to worry about. 43 laps to go here at the Tricky Triangle, and everyone for position is pretty much single file. We saw our Wiggins making a move to the inside of Lansdell, but now Chavez poking to the inside of Sikochi, not able to get it done just yet. But Chavez definitely showing an intention to pass that number 8 car when the opportunity presents itself, but he runs pretty wide in the tunnel turn. This is going to allow Gould to close up quite handsomely to the back end of Chavez. But nothing happening with this battle just yet. You can see at the top of the shot, that was Dawson Kent getting around Robert Wiggins. But now Nick Gould closing in on Philip Chavez. It's still about 0.2 of a second behind. But now Tony Kurgel is really starting to reel in that 94 car. I think they tightened up the 94 car a little bit the last time he went down pit lane. But Kurgel is still pretty heavily applying the pressure to the back end of Nicholas Pressey. Now Philip Chavez jumping to the inside of Mark Sikochi coming down the front straight. Chavez pulling ahead, but not clear of the 8 just yet. Nick Gould giving Sikochi a little bit of drafting help. Down the front straight, still not clear of Chavez, but now Chavez able to clear into turn 1. And, whoa, big slide for Nick Gould as he was thinking about going high of Sikochi, but not able to keep it composed through turn 1. Through the tunnel turn, the leaders go already about 2.5 seconds ahead of 3rd place. This is really just a Nicholas Pressey and Tony Kurgel show. Further in the back, Dawson Kent making up a lot of time to Dylan Lansdale, who I think is, that car is really hurting after he plowed down the outside wall. Kent looking to the inside of Lansdale for the 6th position. And he's going to be able to make the move stick. And you can see John Bittler getting past Jason Crumley for the 8th position as well. But Crumley fighting back on the outside. And Crumley's going to make the move stick on the outside, so he's going to defend that position. Nick Gould pulling up to the back end of Mark Sikochi, just waiting for an opportunity to present itself like it did to Philip Chavez. For the lead right now, the gap is pretty much the same, still just under 0.3 of a second between Pressey and Kurgel. But now Nick Gould peering to the outside of Mark Sikochi. So Sikochi's going to be on the inside, Gould on the outside as they fly into turn 1. Gould running that 3rd lane, that middle lane, going to have a great run. If he can keep the car straight on exit, he's going to keep it straight, so he's going to pull ahead of Sikochi and secure the 4th position. Kurgel has gained a 10th on Pressey for the lead, and now he's really applying the pressure. He's going to try to make the move to the inside of Pressey down the short chute. So Kurgel to the inside into turn 3. Gonna try to make the move stick by the center of the corner. Pressey with a big drive. A little bit of contact for the two. And almost disaster for Nicholas Pressey and Tony Kurgel. Great save by both of those drivers to not hit the wall. But that definitely slowed them down quite a lot. But Kurgel gets the move done anyways. And that little tap cost them about a second to Philip Chavez. Because the gap between 2nd and 3rd was about 2.5 seconds. Now it's down to 1.5. But if the last green flag run was anything to go off of, I would not be surprised if Kurgel and Pressey just start pulling away from Chavez once again. But either way, a great run so far by that 14 car to be on the podium. And depending on how Mark Sikochi handles pit stops, Philip Chavez is looking pretty good for a top 3 finish. But ever since that contact, the gap between Tony Kurgel and Nicholas Pressey now about 0.6 of a second. And I don't know if there's damage to that 94 car. I can see a little bit of a panel gap on the nose. So maybe, if anything, very, very, very slight damage to that 94 car. But it doesn't seem to be affecting him too much, at least in relation to Philip Chavez. But John Bittler now making a move on Dylan Lansdale. Bittler's going to make the move stick, but Lansdale's going to try the crossover on exit. Both these drivers giving each other plenty of room. Bittler might have the run down the front straightaway. Yeah, Lansdale going to tuck in right behind that 88 car. Going back to Mark Sikochi, running around in 5th right now. Not getting any closer to Nick Gould than he was before. But now Nick Gould is starting to close in on Philip Chavez. Last time by for Chavez, a 54.382. And last time by for Nick Gould, 54 flat. So Chavez might have something to worry about, as this time by Gould was 0.2 quicker than both Sikochi and Chavez. So we might see that 77 car making some moves on Philip Chavez pretty soon. But we still have 35 laps to go here. My race calculator telling me that's still 30 minutes left in this race. We are 2/3 of the way through this race right now on lap 66 out of 100. But Gould is really good out of the tunnel turn compared to Chavez. And all of these drivers, with the exception of Nicholas Pressey, on equal tires. Pressey's on slightly older tires. And I tell you what, Pressey is starting to fade back a little bit. Ever since that contact with Kurgel, he's been losing time to Chavez. The gap was about 1.5 seconds. Now it's down to about 7/10 between second and third. As Pressey has fallen about 2.3 seconds behind Tony Kurgel. As someone who just went a lap down is Adam DeFore in the 5 car, lost his front end, and he's just trying to finish this race out. That car is going nowhere quick. And you can see Nick Gould now moving to the inside of Philip Chavez for the 3rd spot. He's to the inside of the 14 right now. He's going to have the advantage entering the corner, especially if he throws it in pretty deep here. All he really needs to do is just make sure he doesn't slide up. But Philip Chavez gives him more than enough grace. And he's going to try actually the crossover on exit here to try to pull up alongside the 77. Not able to get it done. And Adam DeFore graciously moving out of the way of Chavez and Gould. And it looks like he's going to do the same for Sikochi as well. But now they're only about half a second away from Nicholas Pressey, who has really dialed it back quite a lot compared to his previous pace. Last time by for Nick Gould, a 54.4. Last time by for Chavez, a 54.6. So Gould is right now the 2nd fastest car on track, right behind Tony Kurgel. And right behind him in pace is Mark Sikochi. Sikochi has really started to crank up the pace. And if this goes green to the end, I would not be surprised to see Sikochi in the top 3, especially with Pressey starting to fade back a little bit. As now Nick Gould filling up the rear view mirror of Nicholas Pressey. You saw him get really loose on exit right there. But Pressey moving to the inside to disallow any possible draft. And now Gould gonna try to pull to the inside of Pressey. Pressey running the 3rd line. Gould running the 2nd line. And of course, with Pressey having internet issues, it's very hard to tell where he is. But Gould still running 1 lane off the wall. Chavez did something and just completely missed the corner on entry. And that's going to allow Mark Sikochi to get past him in the tunnel turn. Nick Gould side by side with Nicholas Pressey for 2nd place. And now Mark Sikochi has gone around Philip Chavez. Chavez is going to try the crossover. Not going to be able to make it stick, as Nick Gould's not able to stay alongside that 94. Sikochi now looking to the inside of Gould. Gould refusing to waver as he pokes to the inside of Nicholas Pressey. Pressey getting really close to the wall, but he's getting great drives off. Chavez now looking to the inside of Sikochi for the 4th position. And yeah, that just prevents Sikochi from making a move on Gould when Chavez jumped to his inside, but Gould did not have a good tunnel turn. Sikochi had a much better tunnel turn than Gould. And now it's going to be Sikochi and Gould battling for third in turn 3. If Gould can get the drive off the corner, he might be able to catch a tow from the 94 of Pressey, and yes, he will. He'll be able to power by that 8 car once again, but Sikochi really starting to bear his fangs here, as this has turned out to be a calm Sunday drive for Tony Kurgel ever since getting around Nicholas Pressey. Now Sikochi and Chavez side by side. And Chavez might be able to get a move done on Sikochi in the tunnel turn. Had to step out of it, and that's going to allow Sikochi past him. But Nick Gould starting to mount an attack once again on Pressey. Pressey got really tight on exit, and Gould with a great drive out of turn 3. Gould's going to nose ahead on the inside of Pressey down the front straightaway. He might be able to get the move made going into turn 1 here. Pressey really driving it in deep to try to hold on to second place, but Gould's going to have the shorter way around the track. He's going to slide up right in front of Pressey on exit, and Pressey not able to do anything about it just yet, but he's going to have the draft to pull up right back to the back end of Nick Gould. But looks like Gould's starting to pull away from Pressey for the time being. If he can keep that car straight, he'll be able to make up some distance on Nicholas Pressey. But especially when Pressey has to worry about Mark Sikochi right behind him. So now Mark Sikochi looking to the inside of Pressey. Gonna try to look to the inside. Yeah, he's there. About dead even as they enter turn 1. Pressey sending it in really deep in that middle lane. Sikochi keeping it calm and composed on the bottom. Pressey, almost hit the wall. Had to get out of it just a little bit. And that's going to allow Sikochi to sneak on by. So now Pressey, within only about 5 laps, has gone from second to fourth and is in real danger of going back to fifth if he does not hold off Philip Chavez right here. Further back in the field for 7th, Dylan Lansdale and John Bittler going at it as Bittler starting to pull away from Lansdale down the straightaway and on entry. Coming to 25 laps to go here as Bittler got really close to the wall. That's going to compromise his exit a little bit. But now Nicholas Pressey might have a move made on him by Philip Chavez. Chavez with a big run down the backstretch. That 94 car is not handling well at all. You can see how much he's having to really wrangle that thing to keep it from hitting the outside wall. And now Chavez looking to the inside of the 94 down the short chute, not able to pull alongside just yet. But here comes Chavez to the inside of the 94. To his quarter panel, about dead even to the center of the corner. Now Chavez starting to slide up. Pressey going towards the wall, but now Chavez, one of the first cars to, or actually the first car to pull into pit lane. So who else decides to jump into pit lane here as we look at Tony Kurgel, who has currently a 6.8 second gap over Nick Gould. Brian Wiggins in his 15 jumps into pit lane from, I believe, the 10th position. So Brian Wiggins trying to salvage his day, and Dylan Lansdale caught up to the back of John Bittler once again. Both drivers racing each other very clean, but only 2 cars have come down pit lane so far, that being Wiggins and Chavez. Lansdale with a good drive out of the tunnel turn to the back end of John Bittler. Not able to peek to the inside. Dawson Kent's in pit lane as well. John Bittler going to dive in, so Dylan Lansdell finally going to get around John Bittler for the time being. And something interesting to note, Mark Sikochi still well in the hunt for a second, about half a second behind Nick Gould, but running about equal lap times with that 77 car. But the question is, when do the leaders jump into pit lane? Because they're definitely not going to go. I think they're going to try to run it as long as possible. I think Philip Chavez and, I think Philip Chavez pit as soon as possible. And depending on how long the drivers in front stay out, that might be some pretty bad news for the leaders if Chavez short pits them by about 10 laps and this goes green to the end. Let's see the lap this time by for Philip Chavez, a 53.847 for the 14 car. And last time by for Tony Kurgel, a 54.4. So, running about 0.6 of a second faster just from the tire difference. But we know that Tony Kurgel has a very fast race car. So, definitely going to have to pit sometime soon, maybe around the 30 lap mark. As Mark Sikochi in pit lane as well, who was very fast on the long runs here. One of the fastest cars on the long run. So the question is, when does Tony Kurgel come into pit lane? Still choosing to stay out. And running about 54.4. Nick Gould running 54.6. Or actually a 55 flat last time by. And if I was Nick Gould, I would try to short pit, or not short pit, to try to undercut the 13 just a little bit to make up some time. But I believe Nick Gould going into pit lane will probably signal Tony Kurgel to go in the lap right afterwards, but still it would erase a little bit of the gap. As Tony Kurgel finally deciding to pull into pit lane. And Nick Gould still staying out. So Nick Gould, unless something crazy happens, looks like he's not going to be catching the 13, because staying out longer than the leader, especially at a track like this, which is so long, is just not very conducive to making up time. Nicholas Pressey staying out as well, despite him sliding back so far. So where is Tony? So Tony Kurgel just getting back up to speed. And let's see how far ahead he is of Philip Chavez when Kurgel gets back up to speed. So Philip Chavez pitting 5 laps earlier than Tony Kurgel, still comes out about 6 seconds behind. 6 seconds behind Tony Kurgel, and now he's got Mark Sikochi with 3 lap fresher tires right behind him. Nicholas Pressey finally jumps into pit lane. And Nick Gould still staying out here. Now Dylan Lansdell up in second. by sheer virtue of just staying out. Jason Crumley doing the same back in third. So the first car on new tires is that 13 of Tony Kurgel. But Mark Sikochi is making some rapid time right now. As one of the fastest cars on track. He's got fresh tires, and he's definitely in position for a third place finish if he's able to close this out. Nick Gould finally jumps into pit lane, and same with Dylan Lansdell. Jason Crumley staying out an extra lap, but you can see just at the top of the shot, that was Tony Kurgel going right past him. So Nick Gould falls all the way back to fifth with how long that he stayed out. He went from second to fifth just by staying out so long. And now Philip Chavez is about 3 seconds ahead of Nick Gould, when Nick Gould was about a second ahead of Chavez last time by. That just shows how much difference pitting early can get you. But with 18 laps to go, Philip Chavez now under fire from Mark Sikochi for the third position. Still waiting on Jason Crumley to come into pit lane. He's still in the lead because he's staying out for so long. But I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if that 28 car comes into pit lane soon. He's got to be running on fumes here. But getting valuable points for laps led here is that number 28. And Nick Gould had to jump down pit lane once again, where it is he got a black flag for an unsafe exit of pit road. And yeah, Jason Crumley finally coming into pit lane after 31 laps on those tires. Tony Kurgel going to inherit about an 8.5 second gap to second place. Philip Chavez is now Mark Sikochi getting around Chavez down the front straightaway. So Chavez going to slot in right behind Sikochi in second with 16 laps to go here. Like I said, Sikochi was very fast on the long runs, but no one has been a match for Tony Kurgel. Granted, they're still very much in the short run right now, having only been 6 laps off of pitting. But with Mark Sikochi getting around Philip Chavez this quickly, I don't think that he will be able to get around Kurgel, but Sikochi definitely showing that the long game is the strategy here. To just ride easy and let the people around you burn up their stuff, and eventually you will get past them. But right now, Tony Kurgel has lapped all the way up to 11th spot. So Jason Crumley is the last car on the lead lap. Surprisingly, didn't go a lap down when he pit, but that's just because this track is so gosh darn big. You can come down pit lane and not lose a lap. But coming to 15 laps to go here. See, just barely at the edge of the shot. Sikochi coming out of turn 4. Sikochi's about 2.5 tenths slower than Tony Kurgel. As further in the back for 8th, Nick Gould all over the back end of Dylan Lansdell. Nick Gould going to poke to the inside of Lansdale, as Lansdale are going to try to get around Wiggins. Are they going to try to split that 13 going into turn 1? It sure looks like it. Gould going to get a 2-for-1. Well, I mean, Wiggins was lapped, but he gets 2 cars in one move, and one of them was for position, as Lansdale blinks a little bit on the inside of Nick Gould. But Gould able to hold off that 24 car. And that was really the only move that went on track since the Mark Sikochi and Philip Chavez pass. The field is very spread out here across 2.5 miles of track, and the gap between first and second is just about 10.5 seconds, as Tony Kurgel still lapping in the 53-second bracket, the only car last time by to do so, and about half a second faster than Mark Sikochi. So Tony Kurgel has nailed the setup on this 13 car. It's like Colton English, 10 laps down right now, and just enjoying a calm Sunday drive back in 14th. Just looking at him because my timing board showed that he finally passed Chris Norris, who is in pit lane with no right front. But Tony Kurgel definitely gonna get the award for most laps led, I'd presume, because the moment he got around Pressey, he was just pulling away, and it took him quite a little bit this season to get his first win. Finally got his first win at Auto Club. But I think this will definitely be a very welcome feather in his cap for Tony Kurgel when assuming that he comes across the line in one piece, knock on wood, hopefully that he does. Because you could argue that last time, maybe the wreck that took out Wiggins and a couple other cars might have made it a lot easier for Kurgel to come away with the win. But this time there is no doubt that Tony Kurgel is the fastest car in this field right now. Just broke into the 54-second time bracket, and still 0.2 faster than Mark Sikochi in second place. That gap has extended to 11 seconds now. As Philip Chavez has held station in third. Gonna try to hold off Nicholas Pressey to about a 1.2 second gap with 10 laps to go. And something I'm noticing is that Philip Chavez is running really high up in turns 3 and 4. I don't know if he just missed the corner a little bit, but he's running a lot higher up than a lot of people run, because normally the line for that corner is, you try to paint the line a little bit, or maybe have a little bit of a late apex, but Philip Chavez really enjoying that middle high line in both turn 1 and turn 3. See what he does for the tunnel turn, if he still does that high line. Doesn't look like it. Looks like he does the normal one line through the tunnel turn. But he did lose a little bit of time to Nicholas Pressey. Lost about a 10th just in the tunnel turn alone. And this time he's running about a lane up off the off the line, so not as high as he was doing last lap. But Nicholas Pressey's starting to close the gap between him and Philip Chavez for third place. Nick Gould, car 77 in position number 7, making up time to John Bittler in the number 88 for 6th. Just closed in about 2/10 that last time by. And I believe that they're on equal tires here. Though Gould is really hauling this car around. And if he didn't get that black flag for an unsafe exit, I'd wager he would be pretty comfortably battling with Nicholas Pressey right now. But unfortunately, it did not go his way. And just a simple mistake like that can take you out of contention for a battle for a top 5 spot. And he's now 15 seconds behind Dawson Kent, who we haven't really talked about a lot all race. With 7 laps to go, currently in 5th. He's 5 seconds behind Nicholas Pressey and 15 seconds ahead of Nick Gould. So he kind of just has to bring the car home, and it'll be a top 5 finish for him. But Nicholas Pressey now making a move on Philip Chavez down the short chute. Maybe try to use Colton English as a pick as Pressey blinking out. Oh, geez. Hard to follow a car that is losing connection. But through all of that, Nicholas Pressey finally pulls ahead of Philip Chavez to take the 3rd spot with 6 laps to go here at Pocono. The gap between 1st and 2nd widening out to 12.5 seconds, as Tony Kurgel still about 0.2 per lap faster than Mark Sikochi. But either way, very good point stays for both of those drivers. And now Pressey starting to pull away from Philip Chavez. Chavez slowly losing touch with that 94, especially in turn 3. Look how sideways that 94 was on exit. Car getting a great rotation on exit, and a battle forming up for the 9th position with 5 laps to go. Jason Crumley has pulled up to the back end of Angel Rodriguez. Rodriguez's car not handling all too well. Crumley with a lot fresher tires than Rodriguez, owing to the fact that he pitted about 7 laps later than Rodriguez. He's going to make the move around the 18 and going to make the move stick and start pulling away with a great drive on exit for car 28. Philip Chavez still staying in touch with Nicholas Pressey. The gap has maintained about 0.2 of a second to 0.3 between these two drivers. Now, it seems like Pressey just gets such a great drive on exit of 4 that he just gains about 0.1 to 2 over Philip Chavez. But 4 laps to go here at Pocono, and it is all Tony Kurgel and really no one else ever since he got around Nicholas Pressey that last time. He's just had a blazing fast car all race, with now 3 to go, just 7.5 miles left before he can get his second race win of the season, his second race win in a row, and his second career National Sim Racing win. Last time by, a little bit slower than Sikochi by 4 1/1000ths of a second, but when you are 13.5 seconds ahead of second place, 4 1/1000ths is meaningless. And Tony Curtis could probably go 3/4 throttle the rest of the race and still finish ahead of Sikochi. That's just how big of a gap that 13 car has built over the 8. And Mark Sikochi, he's had a great drive, all things considered, starting, I believe, 17th, avoiding the early wreck with James Young, and just making solid decisions and being an overall very fast car. It makes me surprised that he did not qualify very well. But either way, he has worked his way up from essentially last place in the field up to second over the course of a full race. And really the only thing that has stopped him from being the fastest car on track is, of course, the 13 of Tony Kurgel, who's coming to take the white flag here at Pocono. And let's get an onboard shot with Tony Kurgel as he just has to wind down this last lap of the race. Very well composed through 1 and 2. A little bit of a breather down the Long Pond Straight here before the heavy braking zone of turn 2, the tunnel turn. Keeps it very composed, very little counter steer, and that car is handling very well too. And then into turn 3, just keep it straight, Mr. Kurgel. A little bit of counter steer on exit, keeps the car straight, doing a little bit of wiggling down the front straight, but it's going to be Tony Kurgel winning the Pocono 500 in National Sim Racing after a very dominant performance. Very well-deserved win for that 13. And coming home in second, it's going to be Mark Sikochi. And blinking across the stripes is going to be Nicholas Pressey as well. So those are going to be your top 3 finishers and the 3 people invited into the interview booth. But with all of that said and done, let's get to your finishing results. Coming home with the W is going to be Tony Kurgel in car number 13. And in second, it's going to be Mark Sikochi starting almost last and finishing a very solid second place for car number 8. Nicholas Pressey got the pole, finished third. All around good day for him, even though if it wasn't up to his normal race winning standards. Philip Chavez comes home a very strong fourth. And Dawson Kent, a very quiet but very respectable top 5 result for car number 27. First car outside of the top 5 is Nick Gould, who probably would be in the top 5 if he didn't get that black flag penalty for an unsafe exit. Dylan Lansdale recovers from a nasty hit into the wall into a 7th place finish. John Bittler has a quiet 8th place finish for car number 88. Jason Crumley, really only talked about him when he was staying out of pits for as long as possible, comes home in 9th. And Angel Rodriguez comes home last car within the top 10. Robert Wiggins in 11th, the second car 1 lap down behind Angel Rodriguez. And then Brian Wiggins getting involved in an accident with Adam DeFore comes home 12th, and DeFore in 13th. Colton English comes home in 14th, and then Chris Norris did not finish this race in 15th. Other cars that did not finish this race: Chris Chavez, Essery, Randy Partridge, and James Young, or Ray Partridge, I apologize, and James Young, rounding out your field of 18 drivers. Don't go anywhere. Interviews will be in just a moment. Please stand by. Okay, welcome back to the National Sim Racing Pocono 500, and we have just finished this race, and we're going to get our race winner, Tony Kurgel, into the booth in just 1 second. Tony Kurgel coming home with a very dominant first place finish here at Pocono. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
So I want to know what kind of black magic you imbibed in your car, because that thing was bad fast from start to finish. It was fast on the short runs and fast on the long runs. And seems like once you got past Nicholas Pressey, which took you a little bit because this track is just, it's so wide, but it also gets so narrow at the same time. Once you got past him, it was just kind of a nice Sunday drive for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so hard to pass here, and it definitely took a real long time to pass Nick for there. But man, I just had a good setup that just floated through the corners, and that's really what you need here. Really saved tires because I wasn't putting too much on the tires there, and she just flew. I mean, I didn't think I hit on the setup that good. I mean, I was racing Nick good there for a little bit, and I feel bad that I got into him there coming out of three around like lap 60 or something. And I think it gave him some damage and kind of slowed him down a lot. So I feel like if that hadn't happened, he would have been a lot closer. But man, the car was flying today.
Yeah, and that's a good segue because I want to know, what exactly happened between you two, because it seemed like it was just going to be another routine, Tony Kurgel after working on Nicholas Pressey for about 5-10 laps, gonna get past him, and then contact was made. Both of you flew up the track, and then it didn't seem like Pressey got a lot of damage, but he just fell off the face of the earth in terms of pace. So, want to get your account on what happened that lap.
Honestly, I think I just got a little too happy on the gas. Just got on it a little too early there, and she came up the track, and yeah, we just got into each other, got hooked. Thankfully, we were able to get apart. Otherwise, we were headed straight into the wall, and it would have ruined both of our days. So thankfully, we were able to drive away. But yeah, I think that's what happened. I just got a little too happy, got on the gas early, and she slid up the track.
Well, either way, you were looking very happy on the other side of it, coming home with your second straight win and second career National Sim Racing win, and it's going to be big for the chase. So before we let you go and ride the good momentum of your second win in a row into Bristol, do you have any people or sponsors you want to thank?
I just want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. I want to thank Mark for putting the race on, and Lucas for doing race control and all that. And yeah.
Well, short and sweet, and sometimes that's all you need when you win by 13.5 seconds. That's Tony Kurgel coming home first place at Pocono. We'll see you next week at Bristol.
Thank you so much. I will be there.
All right, and then coming home in second place is going to be Mark Sikochi, car number 8. Let's drag him into the booth. Mark Sikochi, car number 8. You got a copy?
I got you.
Coming home in second, and starting pretty much almost dead last. What happened in qualifying? Because normally we see you qualify, top 5, top 10. This time you were on the last row and able to work your way to the front.
We were making last minute adjustments to the setup. Not confident with what we had at all. Didn't have a whole lot of time to put into it this week. Was really worried getting in because I'm like, man, I didn't have enough time to dial this thing in. I don't like the feel of it, but I mean, it had decent speed long run, so we just took our time, got it worked our way up through there, and luckily we had some longer runs, and it kind of worked out. Really happy to come away with a second.
So I have to ask you, and of course, no one really knows the answer to this. But if you think you have more time to, dial in the setup, do you think you would have had the lightning quick speed that the 13 of Tony Kurgel seemed to have?
Not sure. Not sure if we could have found it. We were searching for a feel that that I like, and could never get it out of it. I mean, this place is tricky as it is. You're always, you're set up for one corner, the next corner it's not so good, and um, it's really tricky to have them all somewhat neutral. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Tony's doing a good job right now. He's picked up the pace when it's counts most. He's got the momentum, and congrats to him.
They don't call it the tricky triangle for no reason here at Pocono. So before we let you go and ride the good momentum of a second place finish in the chase in the first race, do you have any people or sponsors you want to thank before we let you go?
Oh yeah. We got to thank IRD Racing. Uh, John Bittler owns that. Get a hold of him if you need any carburetor work done. Um, we got to thank all my teammates over at Mark Scosi Inc. We got to thank all the drivers that show up every week. They make it a lot of fun. I'm sure you saw in the top 5, top 10, a lot of guys, you had a lot of comers and goers, but they would all kind of meet in the middle there, and you'd have some good battles going on. A lot of fun racing them guys. Um, Gotta thank everybody out there watching. It's a lot of fun when you get people watching. Um, I think that's it.
All right. Well, Mark Sakochi coming home in second place. We will see you next week at Bristol.
Thanks, Garrett.
And then coming home in third, it's Nicholas Pressey. Let's get him into the booth to round out tonight's broadcast. It's Nicholas Pressey coming home in third. You got a copy?
Yes, I have a copy. How are you doing this evening?
Doing pretty good. It seems like your internet wasn't doing pretty good all through the race. You were blinking in and out, and it just seems like you cannot get it under control. Is something happening in your area, like storms or something, to cause that?
Oh my goodness, it's been raining, and so I have been at war with my ISP all day. Once 7 o'clock hit, I decided, you know what, screw it. I'm switching to my hotspot on my phone. I had to use my hotspot's Wi-Fi just in order to keep the connection for the whole race. The thing is that the hotspot, it's got its like high and low moments, so it always seems like there's a bit of a risk of it going. And I was worried about that, but it held through the whole race, and I'm hoping that by next week I can get whatever caused my war with my home internet today to be properly quashed.
Yeah, I sure hope so too, because that means more time for you on the broadcast. But either way, you were running pretty well. Started on pole and had a great couple of battles with Tony Kergel, and then both of you got together. So this is kind of a two-part question. The first part is, what is your account of that? And two, how much did that damage affect you? Because after you and Tony got together, it seems like the car just drove completely differently for you.
Oh yeah, well, to answer the first part of the question, it's turn three. There's so many different ways to take it, and sometimes when two people want to take it the way they want to, and both of those ways are currently incompatible with each other, you get something like that. Um, I knew I had to stay a bit lower to prevent uh Tony from clearing me, and I know Tony went deep in the first place just to get the clear on me pretty early. Um, so that being said, I don't blame him. I don't really think there's anyone to blame for as far as that goes. But yeah, after that, to answer your second part of your question, the left front was dinged in pretty badly. I'm surprised I didn't get an X for it. I thought to myself, well, if I'm dinged up pretty badly, then you must be too. And nope, he just kind of flew away, and
Yeah, definitely, definitely unfortunate that you got the pretty short end of the stick on that. But either way, you came home in third, and that's good points for the chase, especially with the chase this short. So before we let you go and ride this good momentum of a third place finish on to Bristol, do you have any people or sponsors you want to thank? Oh, I think did his internet die? Can you hear me, Nicholas? I think that we have lost the audio feed to Nicholas Pressey. I think his internet caught up with him, unfortunately, and that will be a new front of the war that he will have to battle with his ISP. But I'm sure that he has a bunch of people to thank. Yeah, just I think that he might have lost connection. So I'm just gonna move him back to the broadcast booth because I can't hear him at all. But that concludes today. That concludes this broadcast of the National Sim Racing Pocono 500 here at Pocono, and it was a race dominated by Tony Kurgel's bad fast setup. But you know what? That's what wins races, and sometimes it doesn't have to be super close every race, especially here at Pocono. A big track kind of leads to big wins. But thank you for watching National Sim Racing Pocono 500 on Fireball Talks NASCAR. My name is Garrett Hess. You're watching Fireball Talks NASCAR. Big thanks to SKS Graphics and Andrew Schulte for their ticker help and everything related to it. Big thanks to our sponsor, IRD Carburetors. Couldn't do this without their support. And go to irdracing.com for any of your fuel injection needs for your real life racing.